So, ladies and gentlemen, today on Screenshots, we're going to take a look at one of my favorite movies of all time, which was a groundbreaking horror thriller that everybody across North America and the world was anticipating was going to be maybe not like the book, but eventually was a solid adaptation of a tome that was a favorite of Stephen King fans. Of course, we're talking about the 1983 movie. Might as well say it's a Canadian movie because with Cronenberg and a heavy Canadian cast, filmed in Canada, The Dead Zone. Now, the movie screenplay by Jeffrey Boehm is based on the 1979 novel of the same name, of course, by the great Stephen King. I had an all-star cast. The De Laurentiis production had established stars like Christopher Walken in the lead, Brooke Adams, Tom Skerritt, Herbert Lom, Martin Sheen, the underrated Anthony Zerbe, and of course our great Canadian actress Colleen Dewhurst. Now, the basic plot of the film is similar to the book. Walken plays a school teacher called Johnny Smith who awakens from a coma after 5 years to find he has psychic powers. Now, the film was positively received and became actually later on for basis of a series of the same TV series of the same name in the 2000s, starring Anthony Michael Hall. Now, because King's movies always mention this, the plot of the movie is based in the town of Castle Rock, Maine. Now, Johnny Smith plays a school teacher who's in love with his colleague Sarah. Now, the opening scenes kind of hint to the fact he's suffering from something going on. He goes on a roller coaster with his wife to be, and he starts suffering migraines. But we kind of figure something psychic is going on, like his mutant powers are starting to be affected, or he's having some kind of mental strain that's causing him to have a psychic break. Now, with him and his he hoped to be future wife. He leaves her alone. He rejects a solid offer to consummate their relationship. Decides to drive away and gets hit by a rampant tractor trailer and goes under for 5 years. He comes out of the coma after 5 years, not knowing up until he starts asking questions that 5 years are past. And of course, 5 years under a coma, his parents are older, his wife to be is gone, he's lost his job, he's lost his life, and he tries to recover from there. But he starts to show patterns, especially when a nurse comes up to him. He touches the nurse and he sees what's like, he's not sure if it's the future or a possible future. He sees the nurse's child burning in a fire, and he quickly finds out that he has this what he called advanced sight, or like a cognitive sight. By touching people, he can see what their future has been, or in the case of a scene where he's being interviewed about his powers, he can see secrets of people's past or not. See, it's not really established too much if it's mostly psychic or mutant, but there's something specifically going on that's slowly killing him because he has the burden of being able to see the future. And after a series of events, including him being hired to mentor a young child, and he finds out the young child's going to die in a ice hockey accident, he meets an up and coming politician played by Martin Sheen, a senator or a potential, big political one. He eventually touches him in a what do you call a scrum of people. He's campaigning when he touches the Martin Sheen character, who kind of reflects actually what Donald Trump is doing now, which is kind of scary because we didn't know Donald Trump would be president, 37 years ago. But he sees the Martin Sheen character will destroy the world, and he has to make a decision: is he going to kill this person, or he's going to idly buy and destroy himself? He will destroy himself by destroying this person because having this psychic moments are slowly killing him. So it's many things. It's a film noir. It's a horror. It's a dramatic, a great dramatic show by the great Christopher Walken, the Oscar winner. But the whole cast is tremendous. Herbert Lom, who usually plays a comedic character in the Pink Panther movies, plays his doctor, and you have a great scene where he asks the doctor. He said if you had an opportunity to kill Hitler, because his doctor was a uh, survivor of the Holocaust. He said if you had a chance to kill Hitler before he was Hitler, would you do it? He said, I'm a man of God and peace. I would kill the son of a bitch. And so there's aspect of there's a subplot as well where he's hired to be help a cop to investigate a series of serial killings, which is actually one of the most it's one of the most grisly crime moments in Canadian film history. Of course, Cronenberg, he does a lot of sexual violence, and there's gratuitous nudity in here, typical Cronenberg. But the whole thing works because Dino De Laurentiis' production of a Stephen King movie, there was always an international aspect to make it as more shocking as possible. And actually, some of the scenes in here are very shocking because it's not just a bloodletting; it's just a mental anguish to see what the Johnny Smith character is put through to face what could be his destiny or other people's destiny. Now, I think why the Dead Zone has been important to myself and other movie critics and essayists through the years, it seemed to be part of that great year of 1983 where every type of movie was on the big screen. And this was the time, it was a number of years after Carrie, of course, but this movie cemented the fact that Stephen King was a real force, where with the right director, like Cronenberg, the right screenplay adapter, they can make it work. But what was really bizarre about the Dead Zone, there's a whole bunch of drama behind the scenes of how it came about, and that's a whole different story altogether. If you go into Wikipedia, it kind of explains it a little bit. Now, King was offered to do the screenplay of the movie, but it was rejected. And that's pretty takes balls to reject what the boss has written with his own script. Now, Lorimar was involved as well, which was actually the owner of a lot of what is now CBS properties. Lorimar was running Dallas, and it went through different aspects over the years. There's a lot of legend. There should be a documentary actually, The Dead Zone, but like with the dealings between King and De Laurentiis with the script, and Cronenberg actually said publicly that he found that King's adaptation in his mind was needlessly brutal. I don't know what it means by that, but it was, like I said, it was a very, very important project for a lot of people involved. It took a number of years, and of course, King said, the improvements to his script, according to him, improvement testified the power of the narrative. And this is a really heavy narrative, eh? And the music as well, the soundtrack in the movie really, really stands out by the great Michael Kamen. And it currently holds a 91% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And Roger Ebert was a big fan of it. He gave it 3.5 stars. And the key critic, Janel Maslin, New York Times also referred to it as the film as a well-acted drama, more eerie than terrifying, more rooted in the occult than in sheer horror. So there's still a debate if the Johnny Smith character, again, was a psychic, was a mutant, was possessed by something, the spirit of goodness, or in certain cases, like a lot of people say, how it was an evil force that was turned to good by his personality. But the Johnny Smith character of the 1980s Lost Souls, his is the one of the most lost of the souls, because Christopher Walken, just by the way he presents himself, the way he seemed to be aging every time he had a Dead Zone moment, how he reacted to having to shoot somebody. And the denouement is probably one of the most interesting ones in movie history, because the way it's filmed and its way it's presented, it's almost like a 2 hour Night Gallery movie. A lot of people know I do podcasts on Night Gallery. This this film made me appreciate Night Gallery more because it's not really Twilight Zone. Because the moral of the story is, if you're destined to do something, you may have to give up your own life, your own soul to do it. And he chose the good result rather than just not using it and letting the world revolve around somebody else. He took over the world for us. He took the burdens. A lot of Jesus co-imagery here, but that's for a 4 hour course on the Dead Zone, because I see the fact he's taking the sins of the world and trying to change it, and every time he did something, he would die more and more inside. Anyway, so now, why didn't Christopher Walken get nominated Best Actor? Why was the movie not didn't get as much recognition as he did? Screenplay alone should have got a nomination. Who knows? Anyway, on this early start to February, we wish everybody Godspeed. And don't forget Stephen King's adaptation of the show The Outsider, is doing great on HBO. Please give a watch. It gets 2 thumbs up from one of our New Brunswick Independent Authors Association members, Bev Vincent. Bev is a big supporter, of course, as one of Stephen King's editors through the years. And he says it's a great show, and Bev always sees quality and says so. I heard is a very good series. So don't forget Watchmen and HBO. Don't forget Picard. We're into another glory year for TV adaptations, and might do a podcast on the road on Picard. I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to wait for 3 or 4 more episodes. It's more film noir than straight Star Trek right now, so which is actually it's very good for both fans of sci-fi and film noir. So have a good day. Take care.